Well, we finally made it to class after a week off. I hope to do today, what I plan to do today, obviously, is go over Project 4, which is our last Excel project. Which means next week we start our next phase of the course, which is that Sage 50 program, the accounting software program. I do it differently than your QuickBooks class. I'm not going to have you go through the chapter line by line and do the steps step by step. Basically what I do next week is I will cover chapters 1 and 2. There are cases at the end of each chapter which you do on your own. So if you wish to collaborate, because the software is relatively simple to use, it's like QuickBooks, so you have some experience with it, you certainly can collaborate from home. One other thing that I want to talk about with Sage 50 is that you can download the software at home. So if I go into the Sage chapters 1 and 2, which is what we're covering next week, there is a link, a Sage 50 link. It's right here on the left corner where my mouse is. That link will take you to the website, the Sage 50 education website. This is not the actual full-blown program. But you log in as a student, which is over here. So you just click on that. You don't have to register. I will give you a code. But when you click on download the software, you'll see different versions. This is where I need you to pay attention. You have two choices. The textbook that we have is a Sage 2017. It says right on the book, 2017, which is obviously here on the right, download 2017 version. That version is recommended for Windows 7 and below. So if you're thinking about installing it on your computer at home, you can certainly do that, but be aware, if you have Windows 10, I would like you to use the 2018 version. So Windows 10, 2018, Windows 7 or below, I think there's an 8, yeah, use the 2017 version. Now, I would like to have you download the software at home. The reason is I did an experiment with my J session students. Of the students that tried to download it here at school, for whatever reason, they didn't work very well. There must be some restriction on downloading. There must be some kind of security here at school. So try to download at home the software. Once you're downloaded, you're good. You're good to go then. It's just getting it downloaded that's my concern with you guys. If you have a question as to whether you have a Windows 10 or Windows 7 or 8, if you look at ours, if it's got this flag on the bottom left corner, that's more than likely Windows 10.
I don't see.
It's in this left corner. It's like a flag. So the school uses the 2018 version. Okay? The 2018 version is used at the school. So if you wanted to do some here at school, back up and finish at home, you're more than likely going to have to use the 2018 version. That's the only way that's really going to work well.
So you said 7 and below, 2017, and then 8 up, right?
10 up.
Or it have to be 10 up.
10 up to get to the 18.
We don't have Windows 8.
Is that okay with everyone?
Don't have Windows 8.
Makes sense?
Windows 8?
Now,
Yeah, no.
even with that,
It's like 2.
even with that process, some of you still may have trouble with Sage. I'm not happy with the software. I've been battling with their software support system for 2 years. So it's not anything. Some of you will still have trouble. Even if you do all the right things, you will still might have trouble. So we'll just have to battle those when they occur. Okay? So what we're covering next week then is this registration. I'll give you a code. You don't have to do it yourself. I will give you the access code, which will give you full years of access, which again, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So bear with us on that process. Also, we'll cover chapters 2, which is basically how do you create a new company and how do you create a chart of accounts. So the discussion will not be too long next week. So that's why if you wish to collaborate, next week would be a good day to do it or try it. If you wanted to try it rather than traveling in, unless you have some other class. Who knows, we might have another snow day on Tuesday. I heard Sunday night into Monday.
I don't want to hear it.
I know, I'm just saying. So we'll see how it goes for that process.
He has a link on it. Yeah. Go to class material, right? And what else?
Liz, are you okay? That makes sense?
This one?
Okay, good. All right. More announcements. Oh gosh, Gary, you're getting too long here. Going back to Project 3. How are you guys doing on Project 3? It's due today, but I told you last week, I hope everybody saw that. If you guys were in trouble, I can give you a couple more days. Would you like me to do that?
Yes,
Yes?
please.
Okay. You will have time to work on it today, that's fine. But I'm going to hold tight the Project 4 due date, which is next week, Tuesday. So I will, what is today, the 19th?
Yes.
I'll give you 2 more days on Project 3, which would be the 21st.
Okay, sounds
Which would
good.
be Thursday at midnight. So I'll change that in Blackboard here. Thursday, the 21st.
I'll take one.
Thursday, the 21st is our new due date for Project 3.
Thank you.
All right. For those that did submit, awesome, good job. Great work. Great work from what I've seen so far. Okay, videos. I know students have had trouble with videos. This view icon, which is the link to my videos for the discussion. I'm going to do 2 things with my videos. I'm going to send you a link that you can just copy and paste into your URL, okay? That does work better than from Blackboard. I think Blackboard is the issue where it's buffering, and then it stops, and then you got to restart, and blah, blah, blah. I did find out from one student yesterday, she was able to go to Blackboard on her phone, and the video ran straight through. Amazing. Okay, so that's one way. I'm going to send you a link through an email today after class with the video attached to it. Just copy and paste it to your URL. That seems to, Olivia, you tried that?
Yeah, I just, like, it worked better, but I had to let it, like, sit and load for a long time.
Still,
Yeah.
that issue?
But it, like, went through better.
It did go through better? Okay. So I'm going to try that. And then the third, Eric said he's going to help me get a YouTube thingy. What do you call it?
You can just upload a video to YouTube.
And they can search from there?
Yeah. You can either just provide the link to the video, or they can search for it or whatever.
Am I going to have followers then?
Well, I mean, I guess if people could subscribe.
That would be so cool, wouldn't it? Because it's kind of depressing if nobody follows you, right? Okay, so Eric's going to help me get a YouTube A YouTube what?
Channel?
Channel they call it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another process.
So from that channel then, you can view my video. Hopefully it'll be viewable much better, is what I'm going for. I'm done with trying to figure out Blackboard. Good. So that'll be that'll be done. Hopefully we can do that today, Eric?
Yeah, sure. We got
Okay.
plenty of time.
Do I have to put my picture on it?
You can
No.
put a picture, but it doesn't
Oh,
have to
good.
be like your face or anything.
Because my glasses are broken. I really don't want to do that. Cool. Oh, I can put somebody else's picture.
You could, yes.
Or you can make a symbol of hashtag cool.
Okay. We'll have to think about. So guys, help me out create my channel. I feel so young now. Cool. All right, the main reason we're here today is to, I told everybody, a couple of you, that this is a sad day for me. This is the final project for Excel, for this course. We are going to use this project for the Net Solutions project also. And remember, Net Solutions is our main capstone project. We use some Excel. We're going to use Project 1 for Net Solutions. We're going to use Project 4 for Net Solutions. We're going to use a little bit of Project 3 also for Net Solutions. But anyway, the goal of Project 4 is to come up with a depreciation schedule, both book depreciation and tax. Many companies have both. They accelerate, right, their tax depreciation. That's called MAKERS. That's an accelerated depreciation method. And for book purposes, they use a much slower depreciation method, which is going to be straight line. So, very common practice. Many companies have software that does this. They're not using Excel. But again, it gives us a little more practice on using Excel. So what I did hand out to you, just kind of 3 projects. We have 3 parts to it. Assignment. We have an assignment page with a rubric on the back of it. It's just one single page, which is this here, first page. What's on this first page are assets. We call these the manufacturing assets. There's 3 of those. And there's 4 office assets. Office. And you'll notice, obviously they have a acquisition, right? Purchase. They have a cost column. What did it cost to buy that asset? And also a class life for makers, right? We're going to have 2 class lives, 5 and 7. Depending on the type of asset. You learned that in tax, right? Mm-hmm. So the next column is the book depreciation. We're going to use the straight line method with a resale slash, I think in Excel they call this the salvage value, right? So that is part of the straight line method computation. You're going to need that for the book depreciation method computation. Does that all look familiar from your other courses? Makes sense what we have there. So that's the data. What I would like you to do is create a Excel worksheet with the data on it. And it can be just a simple columnar fashion, cost, date, life, makers, resale, or salvage. Pretty basic. If you want to put the description in, you certainly can also. I don't have a description column, but you certainly can do that as well. Some students go beyond and they actually look up the description and then put in the information. It's pretty cool. So you can make more than what's on the assignment requirements. So that's your first worksheet, an asset summary, as is found here on the assignment. So you'll have 7 assets. Is that okay? Any thoughts? Okay. Next, after the rubric, your other packet that I gave you is a sample of what your depreciation schedule will look like. So if you notice, there's an upper section and a lower. Upper, lower. Does everybody have this? Because we'll be predominantly on this page when we talk about Project 4 here. Upper and lower section. Now, this is the format or style I would like to see on each worksheet. So you're going to have one of these for each asset. You're going to have one of these for each asset. You have 7 total. So now we're up to 8 worksheets in this book. We're going to have one workbook, 8 worksheets in it. So we'll discuss what we're going to do to create this, obviously. But notice on the top or upper section is where we're actually going to compute the expense. What is the annual expense amount? So you'll notice that there is a straight line and a makers, right? Because we have book and tax. What is the expense amount for each year? In the lower half, or lower section, is basically what is the book value. You'll see both straight line book value, makers book value, computation. What is meant by book value, guys?
The cost subtract by
The cost of the asset minus what?
accumulated.
The accumulated appreciation. So that's the goal here. What is my book value after each year in the lower section? Both, and it's basically 2 parts, right? A book part on the left, a tax part on the right. We'll come back to that. In that packet with the sample are your 2 maker class lives. 2 maker class lives. You can set it up this way. This will work. You'll notice that there are 6 class lives, or 6 rates for a 5-year, and 8 for a 7-year. So I want you to, on a separate worksheet, so now we're up to what? 9. Very good. You will create this work. Separate worksheet for the maker tax rates. So now we're up to worksheet number 9. So in one column you'll have the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, for instance. In this next column you'll have 20%, 32, blah, blah, blah. And you don't have to use percents. You can have decimal equivalents. It doesn't matter. But the key here, guys, verify that it adds up to 100%. Because I've had students input the rate wrong just by typing, right? Can happen. And it doesn't add up to 100%. And then I do their review of their worksheets and their depreciation amounts are not right. So it's critical that you go to 4 places, because there are 4, right? And that they add up to 100%. Especially on the 7-year class. Look at how the IRS did it. 8.93, 8.92, 8.93. So there's a slight difference between periods 5 and 6. Does anybody know why we have one more period than the actual number 7 or 5?
Depends when you purchase the asset.
Yes, that does have an effect. What do we call that? There was a half-year convention, mid-quarter convention, right? This is half-year convention. So imagine in year 1, we're actually only taking half of the amount. So whenever you buy it, unless there's special rules for quarter, right? Whenever you buy it, you're going to get a half a year depreciation in the first year. So the other half is made up in the final 6th period in this case, in the 5-year class. So that's why there's 6 and 8, because of that half-year convention. Any question on worksheet number 9? Okay. You notice I put some little nice title in here. Make it look kind of nice. Some of your colors and shading has been awesome. Really looks very nice, guys. So keep up the good work. All right. Of course, we have if statements. And hopefully they're getting easier. So we'll talk about those if statements and how they work, what their true part is, what their false part is. I do have a nested if. I love this formula. Love it. Love it, love it. So that's in the upper section. And you notice I broke it out. The if statements are in the upper half and lower half of our template. So, and I also tell you where it is, column 1 versus column 2. It's kind of good. We'll tell you where they are. And then the last packet, guys, is the formula overview, starting with the SLN command. The SLN command. The formulas, again, are not complex in project 4. You'll notice here the SLN, it asks 3 things. What is the cost, right? What is the salvage value? What is the life? The big thing here, guys, I'm just going to mention it now. Life means not makers, right? That's for the tax depreciation. This is the book life. The book life. So make sure you're grabbing the right cell location for that life number. But we'll touch on this third part of the project or packet when we do go through the assignment. So if I could, please go back to that sample worksheet template. I've tried to practice how to present this project because some of my goal here is that you figure it out on your own. You know what I mean? I don't want to give you everything. I don't want to give you step-by-step stuff. So what I'm going to do is try to use this and give you a reference, so to speak, and then you take it from there. That's my goal here. Because when you're in work situations, they're not going to tell you step by step, right? So that's the goal here, hopefully. So what I would like to see in the upper section, we'll start here, is cell reference to the asset worksheet. For the top, what is it, 5 questions? So for the asset cost, right, the salvage, the useful life, which is what we're going to use for straight line method, right, and the makers and purchase date. Those are all cell referenced from the asset worksheet. That's why we have that template original template. All right, next. I have little notes, Excel notes here. Use the year formula in this first row. This is column 1. That's how you spell column, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Didn't look right. Looked a little blurry, but it didn't look right. Where that 2017 is, I want you to use the year formula. And it's a very simple, it's like the now command, right? But again, you're going to cell reference to the purchase date. So I'm going to cell reference to this cell over here where that date is. Now, what I want to do is convert this format 1117 to just say what? 2017. That's what the year command will do for us. However, it might give you some weird number. So what I want you to be aware of is that you will have to probably change the format of this cell. Get it off the date and get it to a number format. Because otherwise the date will be some weird date. Well, I don't want a date, I want a number here, because guess what? After this, 2018, 2019, 2000, 2021, I want this to be a formula where you will add previous cell plus 1, right? The cell above plus 1. It'll be a formula. So if this is a purchase date of 2019, right? My first cell will be 2019, and the one below it will be 2020, 2021 automatically. Formula, add previous cell plus 1. Okay. The other note, we'll worry about that when we get to our if statements. The next column, which is here, it's not centered very well. You can work on that. You will type in the numbers. 1, 2, 3, in that second column in B, column B. This is column B now. Column 1 or A, make that an A. Now column B is the period year. In order for my Excel to work, my expense computations to work, I need to know what year we're in, especially with makers, because there are different rates for every year, right? Right. So this is going to be my lookup value for my VLOOKUP. My lookup value for my VLOOKUPs. Okay, now, next column, straight line method. I want you to use the SLN command. Right? It's going to be the same amount every year, straight line method. I want to also have a total. So I want auto sum on the bottom. Because you want to make sure your asset is fully depreciated. Now with straight line, it only goes to the salvage value and it should stop, correct?
Correct.
So it should be the cost minus salvage value should be the auto sum amount. You're also going to do the same thing here with the makers. You're going to auto sum that total, which does not, right, does not have salvage in it. Makers, you don't use the salvage value. It's the cost times the percent, cost times the percent. So the full amount will be here. And obviously it's an auto sum, I want dollar signs, double underline, right? To show that it's the end. Keeping that practice. So we have the SLN here in the straight line. You're going to have tax rate or percent times the asset cost in the makers. That's it. That's the formula. It's much more complex though. 2 questions have to be answered. I'm on the makers now. You gotta figure out whether to use the 5 or the 7 rates, right?
Right.
Guess how we're gonna do that?
Oh,
With an if test, right?
okay.
If it's equal to 5, use the 5.
Fair
If it's not, use the 7. We only have 2. So with an if test, we can certainly pick one of the 2. So the true will be 5, the false will be 7. So I'm going to do steps here. I'm trying to think of the steps. We're going to have to get a VLOOKUP to start. And what this VLOOKUP will do is give us the rate. And I want you to use for VLOOKUP the 5-year. If we remember the parts of a VLOOKUP, there's a lookup reference, there's a table array, and then there's a column and pulse. 4 parts. Remember that? We've done quite a few VLOOKUPs. The lookup reference is this number 1, 2, 3, 4. So in period 1, on a 5-year, it should be 20%. That's what I want you to start with. Is that right rate coming in? Is that 20% coming in? Okay. Table array name. What I would like you to do on your worksheet with your tax rates,
Thank you.
you will highlight the 1, the 2, the 3 with the rates, call it 5. Scope will be the entire workbook. Range name. Five. Guess what we're going to call this one over here? 7. Highlight the number and the percentages. Range name 7. Those are your table array names for the VLOOKUP. Table array names for the VLOOKUP. Am I clear on VLOOKUPs? Am I assuming that we... So if I go to VLOOKUP here on my worksheet, lookup and reference, VLOOKUP, lookup value is the period year, table array is the range name, 5 or 7. We're going to start with 5. What index number is it in? 2, right? And then false. That's the VLOOKUP command. Now my table array is different range maybe, but that's what you will be doing. So don't, I'm just going to press cancel here. But that's what your steps will be. Now, we said that was step 1. Step 2. Multiply. So in your formula, once the VLOOKUP is working, now I'm going to take that VLOOKUP answer, 20%, and multiply it by what? The cost. Cell reference times cost. Now remember, we're going to try to copy this down. So what should we do with that cell reference?
Absolute.
Absolute it, correct? Dollar signs, right, on that cost cell. You good so far?
Don't we need an if statement to look up either 5 or 7 or what?
That's still close. We're not, we're only on step 2. That's like step 4 or 5.
I was
We're
thinking
getting
that's,
to there.
I was thinking that it's like step 2 because if you look up and you have to determine the year before you do the multiplication.
Yep. Hang tight.
Okay.
We'll get there. The reason I'm doing it in these steps is that it's got to work before we get to the next
Okay.
step. Yeah. What do I do when I multiply? What's my next step? Round. How many places, guys?
2.
In most cases, I would say 2, but for this project, 0. I want whole dollars to show. So all your numbers, all your depreciation numbers, your book value numbers, everything will be to a whole number.
Okay.
Now, since we're doing that, we will have some items being over depreciated or under by $1, $2, maybe 3 if it's a large amount, but don't worry about that. Just let it go. I want to keep it clean as possible without the cents showing. Okay. Yay, we're done. We got the round to work. The formula shows an amount there. Super job. Okay. Step number 4 is when we add our if test. Okay? Step 4 is when, because we have 2 different classes. We got to figure out whether it's a 5 or a 7, right?
Yeah.
We're assuming 5 right now. So on this if test, I'm going to move this up here a little bit. If, so we have an equal sign here, right? The class life cell. If life cell equals 5, that's the test, comma, guess what? What we just typed in, that round, VLOOKUP, all that we just did in steps 1 through 3 is the true already done. Right? So we don't have to do anything. So the true is already done. The false is going to be what? The same as the true, except we're going to change the table array to what? From 5 to 7. Right? So this is going to be tricky, guys. You're going to have to go to your worksheet. I don't want to show you the formula because that would be no fun then. You're going to have to go and copy the entire true section, right? And then paste it, change the 5 to a 7, and close the parens at the end. So here we did. Let's look at our cheat sheet here. Oops. I shouldn't say cheat sheet. That's terrible. Our if statement test. If the period, well, we haven't gotten there yet. We're over here yet. If class life equals 5, right? VLOOKUP 5. Otherwise, we do the 7. That's our first if. Don't worry about the other if. We're getting there yet. That makes sense? So what we've done so far is this section. If between the two parens. Oh, no. Oh, no, don't do that. The second paren is where we're at. The first paren is for the VLOOKUP. The second is for the if test. So that's working. And how do we test it? We put a 7 instead of a 5 and see if it doesn't give us an error message. That's how we test it. Because that's what I'm going to do when I look at your project. I'm going to take a 5-year class life, change it to a 7, and see if it blows up. Okay? So test it. And look at the true. VLOOKUP 5 times the cost of the asset. The first false. Look up the 7 times the cost of the asset. Remember, I've got to add that round command to it to 0 places. Those first 3 steps again. Now how are you feeling? We're not done yet with that formula. So if that's working, we go to the final step. Which is what? I only want to do it for 6 years, or for what? 8. So if the period year is less than or equal to the class life plus 1, 5 plus 1 is what? 6. I only want to do that maker's tax computation for that period of time. Otherwise, it'll keep going. Or try to, and it'll give you errors again. So let's go back to our template. What is this period year? In column B is where the period year is. So we've got our first if test done. Step 5, we're going to add another if test. If period year in column B is less than or equal to class plus 1. Oh my gosh, Gary. It's a mess. But it's also on your if statement worksheets, right? So class life, where is my class life on my template? Where is this class life? It's in the upper section, right? It's again another cell reference to that cell. So there'll be a number 5 or 7 in there, right? It's going to look to that class life plus 1. If the period year, where's in column B, here, if this number, if it's 5 up here, my formula should work to period 6, right? If my class life is 7, it should go to period 8 and stop computing. But only do that if it's true, right? Only do the computation if it's less than or equal to 6 or 8. That's what you got to do. That's what the second if test does. I did the toughest one first. This is the toughest formula that you'll see. It's about this long when you're getting done. Liz, I'm pointing my hands out as about 3 feet. I don't know if she'll get that. Okay? If you can do this formula, the rest are a piece of cake. Now, with every if test, the entire true is all steps 1 through 4, right? For the second if. Guess what the false is going to be on the second if test? 0. Very good. So if I look at my template, my second false is 0. Look at all the other falses. All zeros. All zeros. Not a space or double quotes, right? So keep that in mind. Because we're doing a number computation, are we not? And these cells are numbers, so the answer should be either the true or the false should be a number. Otherwise we get that value thing, then when I try to auto-sum it, it ain't going to work. You can't add numbers and words or spaces. We good?
Yes.
All right. You notice in column 1 where the straight line expense is computed? I've got the same test. If the period year is less than or equal to the useful life year, then do the straight line computation. Round it to 0, right? I want you to add the round command to the straight line method. If it's false, put in a 0. If you got your test, comma, true, comma, 0 is the false, close paren. You should be very comfortable with those if tests now. Because if you don't have the if test, guess what? Again, it will keep computing the straight line method all the way through period 11. And there's a reason for period 11. The length of my biggest asset is 10 years. So I want to make sure your if test will work on that 10-year asset, and I should see what? A 0 in period 11. If I see another straight line computation in period 11, I know your if test is not working. So does everybody understand the goal of that if test? Don't compute. Don't compute if it's beyond. Where is the test cell? Estimated cell or useful life in years. That's your test cell. What do you need to do with your test cell? Because you're going to copy it down. Absolute it again. Right? You don't want it scrolling down as you copy it down. So the goal here, guys, if you get the formulas right in that first cell, boom, copy it down. You're done. That's it. But you got to have your absolutes correct. Even on the straight line. Whenever you reference, I'm going to go to my notes now for the straight line method. Right? For every one of those SLN cells, they have to be frozen. Because I'm going to copy that SLN command down, and if you don't freeze them here, you're going to have a mess again with your formula. I can't tell you how imperative it is that this first worksheet be perfect. Because guess what? You're going to copy it 7 more times. Remember, 6 more times. 6 plus 1 is what? 7 assets. You're going to copy it 6 more times. And students find a mistake after they copy and they try to fix it. Oh my gosh, it takes forever to fix them.
Yeah, I did that the other night.
Then
I
you
just deleted the
Yeah,
file and
in some
recopied
cases,
it.
it's almost better to delete the 6 and go back to the original, fix it, and then recopy.
Yeah.
So just please, please, please make sure that those are done correct. All right, you've been sitting there almost an hour.
Wow.
Should we stop here, take a break, take a breather before we go on to the lower section?
Yeah, sounds good.
Let's take a break here. Let's walk around, because I have probably at least a half an hour to go yet on our discussion. All right, we are back. Let's see what else we need on this template or worksheet. The lower section is our book value computation. Let's start with the years. These here. Type in. On my sample, there is a formula after the first cell, which is just +1, right? So when I say type in, I'm going to say type in the 2017 as a number. The reason we're doing this is for the 3D summation. My 2017 is on roll 24. Roll 24. Not that that's important. But every worksheet, the 7 total, right? I want to be able to sum those up. So I have to be consistent for each worksheet. So you can't have 2017 on row 24 for this worksheet, row 25 on another worksheet because you inserted a row. My 3D sum will not work. Does everybody know what 3D sum means? I can pick the first worksheet, pick the last worksheet, and everything in between will be automatically added. So that's why we have to be consistent with the rows. That sound familiar? Good with that? Okay. After that, then obviously just equals +1. And this is the year range I want you to use, 17 to 27. 17 to 27. After that, this is in column A. Column B is the asset value. And then C, D, E, right? Would be the next columns over. For the asset value, the formula is a cell reference, right? And it'll be cell referenced to the input section on the upper section. The next column will be a VLOOKUP command where the expense is. The next column will be a formula. This will give, sometimes this gives students problems. How do I compute accumulated depreciation in the first year? What's my accumulated after the first year? Whatever the expense is, right? So just cell reference to the cell next to it, right? Whatever the expense is, like Tom said. But what's the formula for the second year?
Previous year plus this year.
Cost of tax expense.
Previous accumulated plus the expense this year, right? Okay. I'm hoping that's what everybody got. Anybody have a confusion on that? Accumulated depreciation, prior years accumulated, plus the current. Do I have to absolute anything? No, right? You can just simply copy that down. How about book value? How do I compute book value?
Use the cost, subtract the accumulated. The cost.
Asset minus what? Accumulated. So just the difference between the two columns. That's all it is. What is my asset cost in year 2?
It would be your book value for the year.
From the
I don't
previous
want the
year.
amount from the year before, the book value. I don't want it to change.
Difference from the book value.
I
previous
want you
year.
to just copy the cell reference down. Does everybody see the difference? Think of a balance sheet. How do you show a balance sheet? You show the full cost, accumulated, and then the book value. I'm replicating that here. I don't want this asset value to be a decreasing value. Because that, I know there are some projects, maybe in apps, where you do that. I don't want that done here. I want to show the full, what's the first asset on my assignment list?
200.
220?
Yeah.
I want this 220 all the way down. Because then this formula will work the whole way down. It's the cost minus the accumulated will give me my book value. So the book value is going to be dropping, right?
Right.
So by doing it this way, my two formulas will work together. And obviously, the same formulas are over here on the maker side. The only thing that changes is the expense, right?
Yeah.
The expense amount, the VLOOKUP is there for that purpose. All right. So that's the layout. We do need 2 ifs tests, okay? First if test is right here. I kind of wrote over it a little bit. Let's start with this first if test. The test will be found in column B and for the VLOOKUP, column C. That if test will be needed in columns B and C and whatever here, right? On the maker side for those 2 columns. The reason I don't put it in columns D and E or whatever this is, the accumulated book value on the other one, is that it's a simple formula working off the other columns, right? It'll be just a dash, you know. So there is no if test requirement there. What do those if tests look like? It's really straightforward. The test is if the lower year is greater than or equal to the starting year. If it's true, cell reference, VLOOKUP. If it's false, what do I put in? So here's what I want it to do. Look at my worksheet. I'm going to change very good idea. Thank you, Tara. And I'll do this too on yours. Let's say the acquisition date changes to 2018. Automatically, because of my year command, the upper section is transferred to 2018. Format this cell as a number. So if I go to my home position, it's a general format, not a date. So you might have to change that. Look at my lower section though. I hope it works. What do you see? Nothing in 17. Because I didn't buy it till 18. Right? I want to start the cell reference formula or the VLOOKUP formula only when this cell, here's my test, right, is greater than or equal to, oh, I messed it up now. If this cell here is greater than or equal to that cell. Can someone tell me what I'm doing? If the lower year is greater than or equal to, what is my cell reference? My upper year is in A10. Now, do I have to absolute A10? Yes, you do. Because that will never change. As I copy it down, I always have to absolute that starting year because I'm referencing to that number. I'm referencing to that number. That number is going to change. That A10 is going to change. I only want to do the cell reference formula when this lower year. What's the lower year? What do I mean by lower year? That's the cell right here. The one I typed in. This is my lower, right, year. These cells are my reference. Do I absolute that cell? No, because as I copy this down, I want this reference cell to change. If this cell here is greater than or equal to A10, right, then do the true. If not, what should I see here? Zeros or nothing or a dash. Does everybody see the power of the if statement? It's pretty cool. All right. VLOOKUP. Gosh, Gary, this is too much. Never. We have two VLOOKUP commands for the expense. Right? So, here's what I want to happen. What the VLOOKUP is going to do. Let's say for 2017. Okay, I bought it in 2017. What is the expense? I'm going to look up to the straight line method, pull the expense from the upper section, bring it down to the lower section. And on the makers, same thing. I'm going to VLOOKUP the upper section maker expense for year 2017, pull it down automatically. I'm going to use the VLOOKUP command. So I'm going to use a range name. Here we go. I hope this works. Oh, good. I got scared. You're talking about breakfast over there. I want this range name in purple here, which includes both the straight line expense and the maker's expense, and the year, right? Mm-hmm. And this year, and call it depreciation. I need to close that door. Sorry, Dave. Tom, can you do that for me? Range name this depreciation, but here, the scope. Please make note. This will only work if the scope is to this worksheet. So remember, we have two scope choices, worksheet or workbook, right? For range names. Worksheet will have this VLOOKUP only work on this worksheet. Because remember, we're going to copy this 6 more times, right? If we have the scope at workbook, it doesn't know which worksheet, what number you're looking at. Or you might have the same expense amount on all 7 worksheets, right?
Right.
So, with name manager then, if I go to Excel, I'm going to highlight this entire section here and go to formulas, name manager, right? I can't use this box, right? This name box over on the left is workbook. You can use that for the tax rates because I do want those tax rates used throughout the workbook, but not for this. So I have to use the name manager or define name, change the scope to that name of that worksheet. In this case, 16 manufacturing. So that scope has to be to that worksheet. Now when you copy, it will automatically change, right, to whatever the worksheet name is. Is that clear? Okay. And obviously you can just call it depreciation. Now, with a range name, the year is column 1. I have a space in mine. That's column 2, column 3, column 4. Guess what? My column for the VLOOKUP is column 5. 6, 7 is the column for the maker's expense. Right? So that's what you got to use. Whatever your straight line expense is, that's the column number for the straight line. And then you'll have to change the column number again when you get to the maker's stuff. I think that's it. Well, not really, but formula-wise, that's it. What do you think? Upper or lower section? Can you do it?
Yeah.
Brianna says, oh my God, I got a headache. Yes. If I'm here, I can do it, maybe. When I go home, it's all a different story. All right. A couple more things. Obviously, there's summary worksheets. So, can I have you go to your assignment? The back of the assignment, the back of that assignment page is the rubric. So what have we talked about so far? Yep.
A little bit of 3.
A little bit of 3. We're getting to more. We talked about the input sheet, right? We've already talked about that, thank goodness, huh? All the formulas that you'll need. Right? Numbers align. I want commas in the numbers, right? It's easier to read a number with a comma in it. There should be no cents showing. Because we're rounding to what? 0 places. So to have cents showing is redundant. It makes the number cluttered. So you want to keep your numbers clean. So that's what we talk about there. The dollar signs, you've been really, really good, guys. Subtotals, top of the columns. Dollar signs on those numbers. PDF reports, basically what I haven't talked about, the summary sheets are what I'm gonna need PDF. Somebody's using something else other than PDF? That might be my other class. Okay. Anybody have trouble getting a PDF or creating a PDF? You can do them here next week if you want to. So I'll help you with that. And then remove zeros under File Advance. Because remember, our fault statement does have zeros some places. File, Options, Advance is where that's located. I would like it on every worksheet. There's 7 of them, right? Just on the main ones. So verify that that's done on every worksheet. You can do that within that File Advanced section. And then protect those worksheets. There is no cell that's unlocked. There is no cell that will unlock anything. Remember, our worksheets are tied to a specific asset. We don't want any changes made to that worksheet. And remember again, when you're creating worksheets in Excel, it's probably distributed, and it's a good idea to protect those worksheets before you distribute them. Okay, now the final topic then is back up to the top where the summaries are located. You're going to create a summary of the manufacturing, which contains 3 worksheets, and a summary of the office, which will contain 4 worksheets. And you're going to use the 3D summation. So, in the formula overview, I have a format that I would like you to use. It's page number 4. Page number 4. Equipment and Opry summary pages. It's on the, that's the heading on page 4, I hope, right? Okay. The summary is just on the lower section. So what I have here is the lower section. And again, I don't know why I have 2016 twice. Yours are going to start with 17. 2017 is the first row, right? All the way up to 2027. I know it's 10, but really it's 11 years. Okay. I don't want you to yell at me for having 11 rows instead of 10. But basically, here's the formula. It's just the sum command, right? And then you're going to grab the first worksheet, grab the last worksheet, close the parentheses. And once I have one done, guess what? Copy, copy. You only have to do it once. Only have to do that formula once. The 3D sum works awesome. Now, in your lower section, you have a year, don't you? Column? Just delete that out. Because otherwise it's going to add up the years. You know what I mean? Or, if you don't like that, it's too messy, you could just copy these, right, over to here, and then sum over. You know, you get the idea. And do another sum here, and then do the same thing again. Right?
Yeah, okay.
I'm not feeling the love here. I'm just saying. So what you're going to do, I'm just going to make a copy here. I'm just going to grab this, right, my headings, to the summary sheet. I'm going to type in the numbers. It doesn't take too long. How did I get 16? Oh, I hit a minus sign. How funny is that? I'm only going to do this once. I know I got too many. Equals, right? Now let me make this bigger. I'm sorry, the formula doesn't go bigger. Can't do that. Equal sum, open parens, right? Go to the first worksheet, grab the number, even though there's nothing there, hold your shift key down, grab the last worksheet. You guys, you know this, right? I hope I grabbed the last worksheet.
Yeah, and then you could just enter.
And whammo, and whammo. Do that for the manufacturing, right? And then create another summary for the office. So the key with layout though, right? I have to have my manufacturing assets together, 1, 2, 3, and then have my office together, 1, 2, 3, 4, for this 3D sum to work. Also know, right, that row 24, right, is this 2017 year. Row 25 is 2018 year on all 3 assets or 4 assets. Okay. I think I beat that enough. Then, once the 2 summaries are done, I want a summary of the summary. But instead of 3D sum, we're going to use the data consolidate function. It's another method of adding 2 worksheets together, right? Much more accurate because you pick and choose the worksheets you want to select. And the worksheets don't have to be in a row. They don't even have to be the same workbook. That's the beauty of 3D consolidate. 3D data consolidate. Oh my gosh. Right? I could pick a different worksheet from another workbook and bring that number in using data consolidate. So, here's how data consolidate works. I'm just going to create another copy here. So I have 2 summaries. Here's my data consolidate. So now I'm on like worksheet number 12, right? So again, I'm going to grab the, I'm going to grab the heading, copy that over. For 2019 year only, just for the 1 year, for the upcoming year, I want to do this. So I'm going to park it over in the asset cost cell. Where's data consolidate?
Data.
Data, right? I'm going to make this bigger, guys. Hold on. Right here's data. Consolidate. And I'll show you a little trick. I want a sum. So sum is the choice. Here's my selection. Grab the first summary and do this. I know years in there, but don't freak out. Right? Take that in. Add. Go to the second worksheet. It automatically defaults to that same row. Oh, I wanted 2019, didn't I? What did I
Yeah.
grab?
18.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. We get the idea.
Mental error. Okay? Grab the second worksheet that you want to add. So you'll notice here in my formula, I've got sheet 2 and sheet 2-2. I'm adding those 2 together. But I didn't do it by cell, I did it for the entire row. Here's the key. I want you to be sure you select Create Links. And I'm going to test this. I'm going to change an answer on one of your worksheets. The summary automatically changes 3D sum. That's cool. But if that link check mark is not on, it will not update your consolidated number. If you have the check mark on, you should see this. You see this plus symbol on the left side? If I hit the plus, I can see the two numbers that you're adding together. If that link is not there, or that box is not checked, this plus is not on that worksheet. I can see immediately that you didn't check that box. Here again, on the year column, just type in, just overwrite it. Right? Because there will be a sum there, obviously. Just override it and get rid of it. And it should let you change it. That's the 3D sum function. Under, why do I keep saying that? Data consolidate. Data consolidate function to add two worksheets. Don't have to be in any order. And that's the beauty with 3D sum. Data consolidate. Oh my gosh. Watch the formatting, right? These numbers are not formatted. But if your other worksheets are formatted, you should be fine. Talk about it here. I talk about the check mark, and then I talk about the year command on page 5. That's it. That's it, guys. Liz, any questions? Any questions from here, from the group? I know that it's a long project. We went through a lot of stuff, but I'm hoping with your prior experience now that it's okay. You can email me your projects. If you're stuck on a formula, you can't get it figured out, just email it. I'll just kind of point out what might be missing. It could be as simple as a comma or a parens that's in the long spot. So keep me posted. The rest of the class is yours to work on 3 or 4, and I'll just mosey around whenever you need help. Good job, guys. I'm going to stop my recording here.